Is Persona in the same place of respect that Final Fantasy VII was in the 90s? From someone who was around back then in the 90s and who has been heavily in the game since that point, is Persona the new slash millennial version for RPG fans? Now, let me preface this by saying that, holy shit, it pauses like that? That's pretty cool. Look at this guy's fucking face, man. That's where I really wanted to pause on right there. The thing is, back in 1996 or 7, when Final Fantasy came out, RPGs weren't really known. And when FF7 came out, it was like, who are you? What are you? But I like you. The main selling point for people at that time was CG. If your game had CG in there, you were a step above everything else. CG, which is like every Tom, Dick, and Harry movie and game out there now. Like cutscenes are like have CG, it's up the ass. But back then it wasn't like that. It was mainly just gameplay. You had cutscenes in the game that had gameplay in it. It was a gameplay cutscenes, but not CG cutscenes with the extremely high level of detail. Final Fantasy VII was the first one to put that in the masses. And then, like, I think Resident Evil solidified that with, like, motion capture, making that popular, and then it went from races from there. But not only was Final Fantasy VII a game with CG, like to wow you, to get you in the door, you know what I'm saying? that candy at the door gets you in. But like once you get past the door, you're like, this is a pretty lit ass party. And the reason why it was hashtag lit, they didn't say lit back then, or even 5 years ago, it was because the music was really good and the gameplay was really good too. Like the visuals with the summer monsters. No game had summer monsters back then. No game had like giant freaking creatures like coming out of nowhere, out of your beck and call to attack like a bunch of opponents or whatever, kick their ass. No game had that. Riding chocobos? Nope. The only thing was like riding Yoshi, like back in Super Nintendo. That's it, really. And riding chocobos in Final Fantasy VII was different than what Mario was doing with Yoshi. That's for damn sure. Uh, Crossing lakes and shit. Uh, but it was a very different, very full experience for players back then. It was so filled to the brim with content. Final Fantasy VII was. It had like a Midgard, which is like the like gambling area, and you have the gold saucer with the chocobos. You ride the chocobos, and the cross dressing event there, the Coliseum. And it was so much cool content. The extra bosses at the end of the game, under the sea, and then the sand of the desert, and going like across volcanoes, secret locations, secret characters. So much content in the game. So cool. And they killed it after part 10. The key developers of making the games cool were fired at Square Enix after Final Fantasy X. And that's when they became Squaresoft. And that's when we started getting games like, but that's when we started getting Square Enix. Squaresoft was gone. Restructuring, branding, merging, that kind of stuff there. People have to go. So the people that made Final Fantasy VII special no longer worked there anymore after 10, and it was obvious because they started making sequels to the popular games. They started doing online games, and you had small essences of what you liked, small parts, but it wasn't what you really liked about the game. In FF7, everyone remembers Squall with the gun blade, Renoa, the cool intro music, Vinos. Everyone remember that. And then like in nine, everyone liked the cute little character. I think his name is Zidane, the Zidane, whatever you want to call him, with the monkey tail or whatever, and the cool music and everything. The cool ore boss at the very end, and it was a very cool game. You know, and then 10 came in there. Like, that game had like boss ass fucking battle music. Orn was badass. The riding Chocobos was back and everything, and you got the zoo with the monsters, and it was a lot of content in Final Fantasy X. A lot of content in that game. And then I played years later. I think I played no, not years later. I played 12, and I'm like, where's the good stuff? Where's the cool music? Where's the story that makes sense? Where are the likable characters? How come the gameplay is just me like hitting one button and calling it a day with the gambit system? It was lazy, it sounded bad, and had virtually no extras. And then I was like, oh, brother, please tell me to fix it in 13. It was worse than 13. It was worse. I'm like, stagger. Why do I care? I gotta do X amount of damage, and then I do real damage? The fuck is that about? And I didn't know if the game had any extras. The story was so bland. I was like, I don't care about these characters. I was like, no. I don't. And then around that time, around Final Fantasy 13, I played Persona 3. And then I played Fest, of course, and I was like, Persona 3 just blew me the fuck away. It blew me away with like the content and the different style of gameplay, which was essentially copied in every single game. I'm not gonna lie, but like the style, the characters, and the story was so deep, was so adult natured. It was not pulling any punches. It was sexual. It had the violence in there. That they played with things like homosexuality in there, cross dressing, things like that. It was not pulling any punches. And the dungeons were really cool. The monsters was awesome. It was a very different, fresh experience. And like I said, the music was great. 12 had no good music. 13 had no good music. 13.2 had no good music, etc., etc., etc. I didn't play 15 yet, but I bet the music sucks in that game as well. No one's talking about that one. No one's talking about that one like One Winged Angel or the battle theme for that the battle themes from FF7 or 10. No one's talking about that game. And then you look at Persona 3, 4, and 5. Of course, 5 is the newest one, so people know more about that one. And people are talking about Whims of Fate. People are talking about Rivers in the Desert. The intro song, the battle music, etc., etc. Looking cool, Joker. It's a really cool, catchy game. No one's talking shit about 15's awesome shit, whatever the fuck that was. Or 14, the online thing. No one's talking about that. 16, I'm looking at 16 right there. From a glance, I'm like, crap. Crap. I know it's crap. Demon Souls will be cool. I know it's going to be cool because I played Demon Souls. I know it's a good game. But no one is talking about Final Fantasy 16. Everyone's talking about, oh, Persona 5 is going to be free? Oh, shit. Not Royale, but Persona 5, which is a good game. Holy crap. See, the thing that makes people fall in love with Persona 5 is it's not the fact that it's an RPG, because we have tons of RPGs out there. We have tons of them out there. We even got an action-based RPG after like so many years. Kingdom Hearts 3. And mysterious by its absence was basically no Final Fantasy representation in the game. At least like when it comes to story. I saw the little Easter egg on the toy shelf. I'm talking about that. But when it comes to, love and passion, you can see it and feel it with this game. You can see it and feel it. Like, let's go. Like, everyone just gets like, yeah, let's go. Yeah, you feel that passion. There's no passion in Final Fantasy games anymore. I played FF7 Remake. Some of the music was like, okay, yeah, cool. I remember this one. It was really cool. The battle with the monsters was pretty cool, and the VR thing, which they took from Yakuza 4, Yeah, what I mean, they stole it from Yakuza 4, probably 5 or 2. What I mean was there was a particular guy in the alley and he put a headset on you, and in that virtual reality, you do things in virtual reality to power yourself up. However, in FF7, you put on the VR helmet in order to fight a summon monster. In Yakuza, it was kind of trippy. You fight in there, but it's like 2D kind of Streets of Rage ish sometimes, and sometimes like it's something else completely wacky. It's like completely different than the 3D fighting. You go like 2D fighting, and they have certain rules like you can't jump. You can only like attack with one button. It's really weird in that game. It's really weird. So like that was the first time I saw virtual reality in a game before. So when I saw it in this game, I'm like, all right, cool. And yeah, I didn't say like, oh, you bastards, you do this, you know. I'm like, yeah, yes, yeah, I've seen it before. It's cool. I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, VR, like out of nowhere. No, no, no. Play Yakuza. They did a lot of cool things in that game. Um, but when I played FF7, I'm like, why am I slow walking and crawling underneath things so much in the game? Like once, twice, 3 times, okay, but it was like 15 fucking times, at least minimum, and that's going back and forth with the shit. I'm like, why is this in the game? That was the main thing that pissed me off in that game, like the forced crawling and the forced crawling and shimmying. I'm like, are you fucking serious? I know why they do that, but I'm like, how lazy and how rushed was this game? I saw textures pop in. That's not really a big deal because like that happens when you're rushed. You could patch that thing in, but like, I couldn't believe that. I was like, no other RPG has this kind of bullshit in there. It's essentially what. Well, she sent the message. It's essentially trying to hide the next area's loading by forcing you to go really, really slowly, and they do that a lot of times. I'm like, this is fucking obvious what they're doing. They're forcing you to slow down because the area didn't load in the next area yet. You fucking idiots. You didn't load it properly. You don't see that in Red Dead. You don't see it in Spider-Man. Those games have awesome looking graphics too. You don't see that. You don't see that cheap shit in those games. Unbelievable. What you should have done is have the whole area preload, like with longer load times. Fine, just don't interrupt my experience with this lazy cutting corners bullshit. Is that in Persona? Of course it's not. Persona 3, 4, and 5 don't have that cutting corner bullshit. So like the games are very enjoyable. The characters are great there. The story is phenomenal. Shit, like the games getting more layered and more layered and more layered. And then Final Fantasy, 7 or, the new one, and 15, 16, I'm like, political, blah, blah, kings or what, I don't fucking care, dude. Persona 5, people are being screwed over by people close to them. And they want to find out why, what's the core of their issue. You go in there, you find out that they were abused, or they're abusing their power. And you gotta fix what's broken in their system. Simple. But in these new Final Fantasy games, I'm like, I don't fucking care. Most people don't fucking care. There's barely any videos of that one. I mean, like, the people are doing pose challenges of Dragon Ball Z left and right. But people aren't doing that on Naruto or My Hero Academia, which is more popular with millennials now. But for some reason, they're doing it with Dragon Ball Z, which is far older than they are. Why do you think that is? Because Dragon Ball Z is a superior product overall, pretty much over everything, anime based. If you want to talk about how Naruto or My Hero is better, no, it's not. It's better to you because it's new to you. But if you look at Dragon Ball Z without looking at your fucking phone for 5 seconds, yeah, it's obviously a better anime. So, with that said, Persona is obviously a very good RPG. I don't know what they're doing with Persona 6, but I can tell by the history of what they're doing. They're definitely working the game right now, and Persona 4 Royale is the last one. They always do this. Persona Fest, Golden, and now Royale. They're working on Persona 6, obviously. They're probably going to re-release Royale on the PS5. They're probably not going to do anything extra with it because when the country fully on six, and it's probably six is probably going to be on the PS5. I would estimate 4 years latest. 4 years latest. The reason why I say so late is because they probably want to take advantage of the hardware like in advance, like in full. So it's gonna take a while. Story, characters, actors, actors, music. All that needs to be set up perfectly. You can't do that thing in like 1 year, like with Call of Duty, replacing a map there, update the graphics by 10% and calling it a day. These new Persona games take time, and they're always worth it. So you gotta be patient. Final Fantasy VII Part 2, it'll sell well, and I don't care. Clack off.